Oh, you're here. Good. I've got another betrayal story for you. Sit down. I can still hear her voice, sharp enough to cut through the music. You're too weak for me. She didn't whisper in private. She announced it, and the whole room laughed. That was the night my life split in two. My name's Ryan Carter. I'm 28. Work a steady office job. Nothing glamorous. My life wasn't exciting, but it was stable. And until that night, I thought Jenna was happy with it too. She was beautiful, ambitious. The kind of woman who always turned heads. I honestly thought I was lucky she chose me. The party was at Aaron's place, a loft downtown packed with people I half knew. Music thumped through the walls, the smell of beer and perfume mixing in the air. I was holding a drink, trying to fit in with Jenna's circle, her gym buddies, her friends from yoga, people I never really connected with. I smiled, laughed where I could, keeping close to Jenna like a shadow. That's when it happened. Someone cracked a joke about who carried the groceries at home. I made a light comment about struggling with the heavy bags. Jenna turned, smirking at me, and said like a punchline, "You're too weak for me." The words landed heavier than anything I'd ever lifted. For a moment, I just stood there, drink halfway to my mouth. The people around us chuckled, nervous, unsure, but chuckled all the same. My ears burned. I laughed. A fake sound that didn't fool anyone. "Yes, that's why you've got me," I muttered, trying to spin it. But Jenna rolled her eyes. "No, seriously," she said, smiling to the group. "He can barely open pickle jars. Tyler would die if he lived like that." She nodded toward her trainer, standing just a few feet away. The laughter grew, this time less nervous, more real. And there I was, standing in the middle of it, the butt of the joke in front of her friends, in front of him. I wanted to pull her aside, to tell her how much that cut, but she was already moving on, tossing her hair, pouring another drink. Like, humiliating me was just casual banter. I tried to shake it off, clinging to the idea that she didn't mean it. But as the night dragged on, I noticed the way she lingered near Tyler, the way she laughed at his jokes, touching his arm when she didn't need to. I saw how easily the two of them fit, and how out of place I looked next to them. At one point, I stepped outside for air, the night cool against my face. My chest was tight, like I couldn't breathe in that room anymore. When I finally went back in, I couldn't find Jenna. Not at the bar, not by her friends, nowhere. I searched through the crowd, heart pounding, until I spotted her near the door. She was with him. Tyler stood close, too close, and she was smiling up at him in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. Then, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, they left together. No glance back at me. No explanation. Just gone. The noise of the party dulled around me. I stood frozen, drink still in hand, watching the door close. Aaron brushed past me, laughing at something, and I must have looked insane, just staring at nothing. I went home alone that night, my apartment too quiet, too cold. I kept telling myself maybe she just needed a ride. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But deep down I knew, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, it hit me. She'd been preparing this exit for weeks. The late gym nights, the sudden girls' dinners, the way her phone lit up with messages she never let me see. All the pieces I ignored came together into one brutal picture. The woman I'd been planning to propose to had already replaced me, and her final gift to me was those words, echoing in my head, mocking me in the silence. "You're too weak for me." The next morning, I woke to silence. No footsteps in the kitchen, no sound of the shower running, just the hum of my fridge and the faint ache in my chest. Jenna never came home. For a second, I thought maybe she'd walk through the door any minute, hungover, smiling, pretending the night before hadn't happened. But by noon, I knew her side of the closet was half empty. The bathroom counter was bare. A few drawers were left open, like she hadn't even bothered closing them after pulling her things out. She didn't pack carefully. She stripped the place like a thief. When she finally showed up 2 days later, it wasn't explain or even argue. She came with 2 boxes, and Tyler's car was waiting downstairs. Her eyes were sharp, her tone clipped, like we were strangers splitting a motel room after a one-night stay. "Don't make this harder than it is," she said when I tried to talk. Harder? She'd taken the life we built and gutted it in a weekend. I wanted to shout, to demand answers, but the words stuck in my throat. Watching her carry the last of her clothes down to his car was enough. It wasn't just that she left. It was the way she did it, cold, unapologetic, like she'd rehearsed. That night I sat in the living room, surrounded by empty shelves and furniture that felt like it belonged to a different couple. The rent notice sat on the table. Without her half, I couldn't cover it. My paycheck barely stretched past groceries and gas. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. The calls and texts started trickling in, not from her, but from mutual friends. At first, it was pity. "Hey, man, heard about you and Jenna. You okay?" Then it shifted. People stopped calling. They didn't answer mine. I'd scroll social media and see them in her pictures, smiling, posing, standing next to her and Tyler like nothing had happened. It hit me then. Betrayal wasn't just losing her. It was losing everyone who'd chosen her side, the world she'd pulled me into and yanked away overnight. And then came the knife twist. The first photo of her and Tyler together popped up on my feed. At the gym, of course. She was on his back, laughing, arms wrapped around his shoulders. The caption, "Stronger every day." My stomach dropped. Stronger. The word she weaponized against me. I couldn't look away. Post after post, story after story. They were a brand now. A couple sculpted out of steel and smiles, flaunting themselves like trophies. And every time their faces appeared, I felt smaller. Still, I kept going to the same gym. Stupid, I know. I had months prepaid. And in my head, I thought maybe if I just wanted odd hours, I'd avoid them. I convinced myself it was still my place too. But one night, I walked in and saw them right there by the squat racks. Tyler spotted her, Jenna laughing between sets. She noticed me almost immediately. Instead of looking guilty, she smirked. Like my pain was some kind of proof she'd won. I tried to ignore it, headphones blasting, focusing on my routine. But no matter where I moved, I felt their eyes on me. At one point, Tyler said something low to her, and she laughed so loud it cut through the music in my ears. I finished my set and racked the weights harder than I meant to. People looked. I wanted to disappear. My throat was tight, my hands shaking, every muscle burning, not from the workout, but from shame. I grabbed my bag and walked toward the exit. As I passed, Jenna leaned into Tyler and said just loud enough, "Guess some people just don't belong here." They both laughed. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. If I had, I might have done something I'd regret. Instead, I pushed through the doors, the night air hitting me like a slap. My legs carried me home, but my head was still in that gym, replaying their faces, their laughter, over and over. That night, lying awake in the empty apartment, I realized something. I wasn't just brokenhearted. I was humiliated. Publicly. Repeatedly. And unless I changed something, that's all I'd ever be. Her joke, his shadow, the weak one who got left behind. After the gym humiliation, I sat in my apartment staring at the ceiling, the echoes of their laughter gnawing at me. I realized something. If I kept living like this, I'd never be more than the punchline they'd turned me into. I couldn't keep being the butt of their jokes. That night, I laced up an old pair of sneakers and went for a run. It wasn't pretty. My lungs burned after 2 blocks, my legs screamed, and I doubled over, gasping on the curb. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was moving forward, even if it was just inch by inch. The next day, I hit the gym again, not during peak hours, not when Jenna and Tyler were parading around. I went late when the place was half empty. I started small. Dumbbells, push-ups, anything to feel stronger. I wasn't chasing their world. I was trying to escape it. The changes were tiny at first, invisible to anyone but me. I stopped drinking at night, swapped beer for water, and cut out the mindless scrolling that only made me feel worse. Instead, I read, I researched workouts, and I focused on work. I picked up extra hours at the office, not just for the money, but to keep myself occupied. If I were too busy to sulk, I couldn't spiral. But no matter how much I avoided her physically, she found me online. Jenna's posts painted me like some villain she had heroically escaped from. Never let toxic people hold you back from your potential, she wrote under one picture of her and Tyler flexing at the gym mirror. Another, sometimes you have to leave the weak behind to grow. Her words spread through our circle, and because I stayed silent, people believed her. I became the jealous ex, the clingy boyfriend who couldn't handle her success. The more I ignored it, the louder her version of the story seemed to get. Still, I stayed focused. Wake up, run, work, lift, sleep, rinse, repeat. Progress was slow, but every rep, every mile, was one more brick in the wall I was building around myself. Then came the grocery store. It was a Tuesday night, late, the store mostly empty. My cart rattled with instant noodles, canned beans, and discount bread, survival food. I was pushing it toward the checkout when I froze. There they were, Jenna and Tyler, walking down the aisle like a couple out of a commercial. Their cart was full of organic produce, protein powders, almond milk, all the things I used to buy for Jenna when I thought I was supporting her healthy lifestyle. She spotted me first. Her eyes flicked to my cart, then to me. She didn't even try to hide the smirk. She leaned close to Tyler, whispered something, and he barked out a laugh. I could feel the heat rising up my neck. My grip tightened on the cart handle until my knuckles whitened. I told myself to keep walking, to get out before I gave them the satisfaction. But my legs moved slowly, every step heavy as I passed them. Tyler chuckled again, shaking his head. Guess some people never change, he said, not even bothering to lower his voice. Jenna laughed with him, loud and sharp, like glass breaking. I kept my eyes forward, jaw clenched so hard it hurt. My chest felt like it was caving in, but I forced myself to keep moving. I paid for my food. The cashier gave me a pitying glance I didn't want, and walked out into the cold night air. The ride home was a blur. The humiliation sat on my shoulders like a weight, heavier than any barbell I'd ever lifted. I dropped the bags on the counter and stood there, staring at the pile of cheap food, my reflection warped in the microwave door. For a moment, I wanted to quit, to sink back into the hole I'd been crawling out of, to let their laughter define me. But then I thought about every run, every late-night lift, every hour I'd forced myself to keep going when I wanted to quit. I thought about how good it felt, even for a second, to see progress in the mirror, and I swore I wouldn't stop. That night, I pushed the noodles aside and wrote down a plan, workouts, savings goals, everything I needed to claw my way back. If they wanted me weak, fine. I'd show them what weakness could become when it refused to stay down. I didn't sleep much, but when the sun came up, I was ready. Weeks turned into months. Somewhere along the way, the nightly run stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like routine. My lungs didn't burn as much. My legs carried me farther, and the weights I lifted slowly ticked upward. It wasn't overnight, but the mirror started telling a different story. The guy staring back wasn't soft around the edges anymore. My shoulders filled out, my jawline sharpened, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to avoid my own reflection. Work was changing too. Picking up extra hours paid off. Numbers don't lie, and my boss noticed the effort. One Friday afternoon, he called me into his office and slid an envelope across the desk. Promotion. A raise big enough to take the weight of overdue bills off my chest. I walked out of that office lighter than air. That's when Marcus started hanging around more. He was a co-worker I barely talked to before, but he'd noticed I was pushing myself. One day, he caught me eating chicken and rice in the break room, asked if I was training, and we got talking. Turned out he lifted too, and he knew what it was like to start from nothing. You keep this up, you'll be unrecognizable in 6 months, he said, grinning. It stuck with me, unrecognizable. The word felt like oxygen. That's what I wanted. To never again look like the man Jenna laughed at. With the raise, I finally ditched the wrinkled button-ups I used to recycle every week. I bought clothes that fit right. Crisp shirts, slim pants, jackets that sharpen my frame instead of hiding it. The first morning I walked into work wearing a tailored blazer, I caught people doing double takes. For once, I didn't mind the attention. Little by little, I stopped hiding. I wasn't ducking out of gatherings anymore. I held conversations, cracked jokes, and didn't fidget when someone looked me in the eye. My confidence grew like a muscle. Quiet at first, then undeniable. But life has a way of testing you just when you think you're getting somewhere. Erin's birthday dinner. She'd been one of Jenna's closest friends. But she invited me anyway, maybe out of pity, maybe because she still saw me as part of the group. I almost said no. The thought of walking into a room full of people who knew every detail of my humiliation made my stomach turn. But Marcus pushed me. Go, he said. Show them you're not hiding anymore. So I went. The restaurant was one of those trendy spots downtown. Dim lighting, polished with tables, candles flickering between wine glasses. I showed up in a dark suit jacket, clean shave, and hair styled. I didn't look like the Ryan they remembered. I wanted that to be obvious. At first, it worked. Erin hugged me at the door, surprised. A couple of others complimented my look. For a brief moment, I felt like maybe I'd pulled it off, like I could sit down, blend in, and just be another guest. Then they walked in, Jenna and Tyler, hand in hand, glowing with the smugness of people who believed the whole world admired them. She spotted me instantly. Her eyes flicked up and down, assessing, calculating. Then she smiled, not a warm smile, but the kind that promised trouble. I kept my face neutral, focusing on my drink, but they sat directly across from me, like fate had pulled a chair out for them. Dinner went fine at first. Polite chatter, stories, laughter. I stayed measured, chiming in when it fit, keeping my voice steady. But I could feel it building, the moment when Jenna couldn't resist twisting the knife. It came with the toast. Erin raised her glass to thank everyone for coming. People clinked glasses, smiles all around. Then Jenna, without missing a beat, lifted hers higher. To moving on from weak men, she said, voice sweet as poison. The table erupted in laughter. Tyler smirked, eyes locked on me. Heat flooded my face. But I didn't flinch. I didn't slam my glass down, didn't storm out like they probably wanted. I raised my own glass slowly, took a sip, and set it back down without a word. My hand didn't shake. My jaw didn't twitch. I stared straight ahead, calm, collected, while inside every muscle screamed. The rest of the night blurred. Conversations carried on. Plates cleared. Laughter spilled over me like static. I kept my composure until it was done. When I finally stepped outside into the night air, I let the mask slip. My chest heaved, my fists clenched, my teeth ached from grinding. That toast replayed in my head like a drumbeat. To moving on from weak men. I'd swallowed humiliation before, but this one cut deeper, because I thought I was past it. I thought progress made me safe. But they reminded me, at any moment, I could be dragged back into the dirt. So I made myself a promise right there on the sidewalk. Never again. Never again would I be caught defenseless. Never again would I walk into a room and feel like prey waiting to be mocked. If I were building myself, I would build until no one could touch me. I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. The kind where her words wouldn't matter, where Tyler's smirk couldn't touch me, where my presence alone would silence them. That night, I went home and pushed harder than I ever had. I ran until my lungs tore, lifted until my muscles screamed. Every rep, every drop of sweat was fuel for the vow I'd made. They wanted to drink to my weakness? Fine. I'd make sure the next time they saw me, all they'd taste was regret. Time passed, and somewhere along the way, I stopped being Jenna's ex People didn't recognize me as the guy who got humiliated at parties or the weak boyfriend left behind. I'd built something else, something that finally felt like mine. Work was at a new level. The promotion had open doors, meetings with people higher up, invites to events I'd never been considered for before. My name started floating in conversations that used to go over my head. It wasn't just a paycheck anymore. It was respect. And with that came a new circle. Through Marcus, I found myself at happy hours, networking events, rooftop parties where I wasn't the awkward tag-along. I was welcomed, wanted. People laughed at my jokes, asked for my opinion, and treated me like I belonged. For the first time in years, I wasn't living in someone else's shadow. That's where I met Lena. It was a summer evening, and the city spread out below us from a rooftop bar. String lights glowed overhead, the skyline shimmering in the distance. I was standing with Marcus, talking shop, when she walked in. Heads turned, naturally. She had that kind of presence, tall, poised, with the effortless grace of someone who knew how to own a room without trying. She caught me staring. Instead of brushing past like I expected, she smiled. And just like that, I wasn't invisible. We ended up talking. First about the view, then about work, then about everything else. She was a model, yes, but not the cliché people imagine. Sharp, funny, grounded. She asked about me, really asked, and didn't look through me the way Jenna used to when someone more interesting walked by. Somewhere in the middle of that conversation, I realized she wasn't attracted to the man Jenna had mocked months ago. She was drawn to the man I'd become, the confidence in my voice, the strength I carried without flaunting it. She validated every late night, every drop of sweat, every ounce of discipline. When she touched my arm and laughed at something I said, I felt it, the sting of Jenna's words finally dulling. I wasn't weak. I'd never been weak. I'd just been with someone who needed me to believe it. As things with Lena grew, life felt balanced again. I wasn't scrolling through Jenna's feeds at night. I wasn't drowning in humiliation. I had someone beside me who saw me as more than enough. But the universe has a way of letting you glimpse the other side. Rumors started circulating, not from Jenna directly, but through whispers in the same social circles we still brushed against. Tyler was losing ground. Sponsors were backing away, whispers about bad practices spreading in fitness forums. The perfect gym king was cracking at the edges. One evening, Marcus showed me a post that made him snort. Tyler had been cut from a local competition lineup. No explanation given. And people were speculating in the comments. Juicing, one wrote. Bad attitude. Another said, whatever the truth was, his spotless image wasn't so spotless anymore. And Jenna? Her posts weren't glowing like they used to. Less smiling, more vague captions about fighting through challenges and true strength being tested. The stay perfection was slipping. I didn't comment. I didn't gloat. I just watched from a distance. There was a time when seeing them falter would have filled me with joy, would have felt like justice. But now it was different. I wasn't bitter anymore. I didn't need them to crumble for me to feel whole. Their downfall wasn't my victory. It was just inevitable. Because while they were busy flaunting themselves for likes and attention, I'd been building something real. A stronger body, a sharper mind, a better career, a woman who actually saw me. The weak one had broken away. And as much as I tried to tell myself I didn't care, a small part of me couldn't help it. I knew there would come a day when our paths would cross again. And when it did, I wouldn't be the one walking out in shame. Months later, I barely recognized the man I used to be. The empty apartment, the late night scrolling through Jenna's posts, the constant pit in my stomach. They felt like someone else's memories. My life had shape now, direction. I wasn't chasing scraps of validation anymore. I was standing on my own. That's when the invitation came. A charity gala, hosted downtown by one of the firms my company partnered with. Marcus handed me the envelope in the break room, grinning. You've got to go. Networking, open bar, and you'll look like $1 million in a suit. I laughed, but deep down, it meant more than that. A gala wasn't just a work event. It was a sign I was part of a different league now. I wasn't the guy clinging to someone else's social circle anymore. I had my own. The night of the event, Lena and I walked up the marble steps together. She wore a sleek black dress that turned heads the moment we entered, her hand resting lightly on my arm. I was in a tailored suit, sharp lines that fit like armor. For once, I didn't feel like I was pretending to belong. I knew I belonged. The ballroom was all chandeliers and polished wood, a sea of tuxedos and gowns. Waiters glided by with trays of champagne, and a string quartet played softly in the corner. Conversations buzzed around us, but I moved through them with ease, shaking hands, laughing, and introducing Lena with pride. Then, across the room, I saw them, Jenna and Tyler. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks. But no, it was them, standing near the edge of the room like wilted versions of their former selves. Tyler wasn't the carved statue I remembered. He'd gone soft around the middle, his sharp jawline dulled. His suit strained at the buttons, his face puffy, like too many late nights and not enough discipline. The shine of the fitness king was gone. And Jenna, she was almost harder to look at. The glow she once carried had dimmed. Her eyes looked tired, her makeup heavier, as if it was painted on to mask the exhaustion beneath. She clung to Tyler's arm, not with pride, but like someone trying not to drown. For a moment, I just stared. Not out of longing, not out of hate, just realization. This was the path she'd chosen, and it had led her here. Lena squeezed my hand, following my gaze. "Friends of yours?" she asked softly. I smiled. Not exactly. It didn't take long before Jenna noticed me. Our eyes locked across the room, and there was the moment I'd imagined 100 times. Only it didn't play out the way I thought it would. There was no smirk on her face this time. No playful jab, no mocking glance. Just shock. Her lips parted, like she wanted to say something, but nothing came. She took me in, the suit, the confidence of my posture, Lena at my side, and I saw it register. This wasn't the man she'd left behind. This wasn't the weak one. Tyler followed her gaze, and when he saw me, his expression flickered too. For just a split second, his smug mask slipped, replaced with something bitter. Resentment. I didn't approach them. I didn't need to. I let the silence do the talking. Every laugh Lena and I shared, every handshake I exchanged, every glance of recognition from people in the room, it all said what words never could. I wasn't the man she mocked anymore. The roles had flipped. She was the one clinging to a crumbling image, the one watching from the sidelines as someone else took center stage. At one point, I caught her eyes again. There was something there now. Regret. Heavy, raw regret. She looked like she wanted to cross the room, to say something, maybe to apologize, maybe to beg. But she didn't move. Because what could she say? No speech could erase the party where she humiliated me. The night she walked out with him, the laughter in the grocery store, the toast at Aaron's dinner. She had written her version of me in permanent ink, and now she was forced to read the truth she never believed in. Lena leaned close, whispering something that made me laugh, and I didn't look back at Jenna again. I didn't need to. The message was already written across her face. By the end of the night, I walked out of that ballroom not as the man abandoned, not as the man mocked, but as the man who survived, who rose, who broke free. Jenna once told me I was too weak for her. But standing there with Lena on my arm, success at my back, and her hollow eyes watching me leave, I finally understood the truth. I wasn't too weak. I was too strong to need her. Hey, what would you have done if your ex had humiliated you in public and left for someone else? Do you think Ryan was right to stay silent and rebuild, or should he have confronted them sooner? Drop your take in the comments. And if you're into stories like this, hit subscribe and stick around for more.